Good evening, my little puppy wuppies, and welcome to Dream Cinema. Get your tummies tickled because soon we'll be tucked up and off to dreamland. But first, I'm sure you're wondering,
what in tarnation is Dream Cinema?
And I'm glad you asked. Sometimes when I'm lying in bed, eyes shut, deep in sleep, I have vivid dreams. Not about the typical things people dream about, such as kissing their crush, you absolute fucking pervert. No. Keep your goddamn lips off of me. I often have horrifying dreams about tornadoes, but sometimes I have really vivid dreams about movies that I'm looking forward to, or just movies that I'd like to see in general. And recently, I saw it. Clear as day, Spider-Man No Way Home. I got a front row seat in the Dream Cinema to a movie that we're all looking forward to this December, unless it gets delayed. So, shut your eyes now. I need you to visualize this. Don't look at this video, you will be punished. So, the film starts with Mysterio revealing Peter Parker's secret identity, right where the previous film left off. And the New York crowds begin pelting Spider-Man with trash. Sounds like your typical Spider-Man fan. Now, of course, given that this is just a video on a controversial news website, the police and law enforcement don't take it seriously immediately. However, there is investigation going on. We then get like a 10-minute montage of Peter trying to fight crime, but pressure mounts the more the public despise him. As well as that, law enforcement do start to set in with new military-grade defense drones. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear, but it's raining outside now. Honestly, I find it soothing. Eventually, more and more measures get put into place to stop Spider-Man, to the point where it is now nigh on impossible for Spider-Man to function. As well as that, Peter Parker is completely unable to live his life now. When his home is raided and Aunt May is threatened, Peter decides it is time to hang it up. He's Spider-Man no more, but also he's Peter Parker no more. Peter carefully evaluates this decision though, and we get a flashback to when Uncle Ben was alive, but Peter still had his powers. And we get this flashback to this hurricane in Queens. The wind is about to blow a power line down onto the Parker household, but Peter jumps out and catches the power line by the cable, electrifying himself in the process but still surviving, and still remaining completely conscious. Uncle Ben comes running out to check if Peter's okay, and he's like, well, you're the real superhero, kid. So the reason why he says this is because Uncle Ben is kind of a superhero in himself. Try not to ask me too many questions, please remember that this is a dream. Inside the Parker household is a ton of Batman memorabilia. And the reason for this is because Uncle Ben was a stunt double for Michael Keaton when filming Batman Returns. And he got to keep some of the props and costumes. So to celebrate Peter Parker's survival and saving the household, I guess, they have a Batman-themed party, and Aunt May gets in the Catwoman costume, and Uncle Ben gets in the Batsuit, and they dance the Batusi to the 1966 Batman theme music. At this point, I joked to the friend next to me and said, ha, I guess Marvel Studios really wanted to shake off the whole Iron Man Jr. meme, so they replaced it with Batman Jr. A bunch of the people in the theater looked pissed, and I wasn't sure if I was having a fever dream at this point. Like, within the dream. Within the dream, I asked myself, is this part of the movie or am I having a fever dream? We flash back to the current day, and upon making his decision, he vows to protect Aunt May and swings out into the night, where Spider-Man is seemingly killed. But of course, Peter has faked his own death, and now sets out to lie low in the city, forging a new identity for himself as Ben Reilly, living as a homeless stranger. In the film that I visualized, he didn't really have a different appearance or anything. He just wore his hood up most of the time, and somehow people didn't recognize him. Yeah, little contrived that. He does little odd jobs for people here and there to get a little bit of money just to survive on the streets. But it also becomes apparent how much the death and now absence of Spider-Man is felt within the city, with people divided as to whether or not Spider-Man was innocent or guilty. And it's at this point that Peter reads in a newspaper that happened to blow by him that there is a Spider Legion recruiting with a location to meet. So Peter heads over to a scrapyard, And at the very back of this scrapyard is a little hot dog truck. And the vendor at the hot dog truck is played by none other than Andrew Garfield, now with much scruffier hair than he had in the Amazing Spider-Man films. Now, no, Andrew Garfield is not playing Peter Parker here, just a hot dog vendor who is recruiting for the Spider Legion. However, he does reveal a scrappy homemade Spider-Man costume that pays homage to the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit. It is very, very similar, just a lot more baggy. So Andrew Garfield guides Peter Parker to an abandoned subway station, and as the doors open, he sees dozens of people in different Spider-Man inspired outfits, having some kind of massive underground meet. You get loads of different shots of the different Spider Legion members, and one of them is an unmasked Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. However, he doesn't get any lines of dialogue, he's not the real Spider-Man, he's just a member of the Spider Legion, and Tobey Maguire's face is clearly recreated with CGI, as I guess they couldn't get him back for the film. Also among the bunch is Ned Leeds, who Peter then meets in the crowd, and Ned is shocked to see that Peter is still alive, wanting to go tell everybody, but Peter swears him to silence and says he's to be referred to only as Ben Reilly. Peter gives Ned one of his web shooters so that he can better contribute to the Spider Legion. None of them have powers or anything, but they're basically a force for good who want to avenge Spider-Man, clear his name, and keep New York City safe. But on top of just fighting crime, Peter makes friends with the core members of the Spider Legion. They go out for Greek food and cocktails, but they need ID to get the cocktails, and, well, Peter would obviously have to give his Peter Parker ID, so he just says that he's not gonna drink. We get lots of scenes of the characters bonding, but Peter breaks off from the group to head back to Queens, where he checks in on Aunt May from a distance. He thinks about how much he wants to see her, how much he wants to speak to her, but he realizes how problematic that would be. It would give her such a shock to the system. It would probably unearth a lot of emotions, and he realizes that in faking his own death and not cluing her in on it, he's hurt her. There's no going back now. Or in other words, no way home. He does the same with checking up on MJ, who's working at a bakery, taking one last look at the life that he's left behind before swinging out into the sunset. Not as Peter Parker, not as Spider-Man, but as Ben Reilly, a member of the Spider Legion, and that is where the film ends. Yeah, I know, kind of a weird ending, feels more like a part 1 if anything else. So here's a few odd things. The integrated suit did not show up in the film, neither did the black and gold suit. He did wear the red and black suit very briefly at the start in the scenes that I mentioned, but from there on, no more Spider-Man. This was a mostly Peter Parker film. As well as that, no appearances from Benedict Cumberbatch whatsoever. False advertisement. And as well as that, Alfred Molina and Jamie Foxx as Doc Ock and Electro did not show up until the after credits, where basically the two of them had escaped from the multiverse and were ready to take on Spider-Man, only to find out that they would be taking on an entire legion. As well as this, J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson did not appear in the film. And aside from that after credits, there was no actual villain this time. One of the first things I did after seeing the film was go on Twitter to brag to the people that called me an idiot for not immediately assuming that this would be a Spider-Verse film early on. It may well be, in fact I'd say it's pretty likely. But in this case, it wasn't, even though it did feature Tobey Maguire in a tiny little cameo, and Andrew Garfield in a brief moment as well. In the dream, I thought the film was mid as hell, and I really didn't know what the whole Batman stuff was about. I went to Rotten Tomatoes, the film had fairly decent scores, but I overall thought it was easily the worst of the MCU Spider-Man trilogy. Not terrible, but I felt like we were kind of losing track of what people like about Spider-Man. Like, what a lot of people had been accusing MCU Spider-Man of, you know, being too far from the source material and everything. I was kind of feeling this here. Although looking back, I don't think that's the criticism I'd make here. Moreover, just false advertisement. Well, anyway, that was my dream cinema version of Spider-Man No Way Home. I did a long time ago have a dream about Spider-Man Far From Home, which I guess I could talk about a little bit, but I don't think it's as detailed as this is. Let me know if you'd be interested in the comments below. No, this can't be a regular thing, it can only be as regular as me dreaming about movies. I'll let you know when I do. But what do you guys think? Comment below and discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, hit subscribe, hit the like button, and in the description below are links to different social media feeds, as well as my Patreon. And a special shout out goes to the patrons in the $10 tier. That is Marcus Ward, Cyrus the Skeptic, and Biotinards, as well as Mr. SP. Thank you so much, you guys are the creme de la creme. But as for the rest of you, thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a great day.